I've been playing guitar for 30 years and I should be a whole lot goddamn better than I am, but I keep running into pros who are phenomenal that just practice and practice and practice and are always learning new stuff. We talked about Yasa Heifetz, who said, if I don't practice one day, I know it. If I don't practice for 2 days, my agent knows it. If I don't practice for 3 days, the whole world knows it. One of the greatest musicians in the world, and they're all like that. And acting's no different, dancing's no different. Everything that's physical or something learned, you have to keep going. You have to keep doing. There's always more to learn and grow and do. What are you afraid of? Go and do it. Okay? Anyway, so I've maintained, and I give the same speech before every showcase, and of course it goes in one ear, not the other, but I do my best. And that is, I say, this is not a final product you're going to see from anybody here. This is their work in progress on this particular piece of material, and here's where it is at the present moment. If you come back in another 10 weeks, they'll probably be doing the same scene, and you'll see how it changed, and it did happen, okay? And of course, that goes in one ear and out the other with some people, but I don't want you to look at the showcase as the end. You haven't arrived anywhere. You haven't even arrived with that scene. I mean, if you've chosen it well, and when you come into class and I tell you you're done with that scene. And I don't think anybody's heard that yet. Now, we've seen some really finished projects. Those of you that were at the last showcase, we had some fucking killer work. I mean, it was incredible how it came together, and it was really great, but there was a lot of sweat and blood and tears that went into it. But it wasn't finished by any imagination, okay? But the point of it is I want you guys to have agents. I want people that hire you to see you, but I want them to see you at your very best. So I want to do it. And I also think it's a good point every so often to say, hey, this is where my work was, and to have your peers come in, or your relatives, your mom and dad, or whoever. You're not wasting your time. Look what I did. We had the packed house, and they came in and they were just amazed at the kind of work that they did, because the hard work shows. You've seen it. When you see somebody that's put in the work, you see. We used to say, if you work, if you do the work, it shows up next week, and if you don't do the work, guess what shows up next week? Okay, it's pretty much the same. So I want to have them, but I don't want you guys to think of it as the be-all, end-all, and that you're done, number one. And number two, we, at some point in time, we're going to have 2 classes, and I'm going to be selecting scenes from both classes for the showcase. And I've had it happen several times in the past where people came up to me and they were pretty pissed off that they weren't selected. This is not a democracy. This is a benevolent dictatorship. And if I don't pick your fucking scene, there's a reason. I'm not going to let you embarrass yourself. And if it's not good enough, it's not going to be put out. That's just the way it is. Regardless of the fact that I want to show the work in progress, I want to show the work at a certain level. Everybody understand that? So don't come to me, because you won't like the answer. And then you'll get mad at me. Don't do it. That's why I had you sign these little things. Everybody has signed and turned in one of those little pages that have the rules, right? Who hasn't done that? Everybody's done that. You know the rules about being late. It bugs me. I'm sorry, it bugs me. You would not be late if you were hired to shoot. I don't mean to embarrass you, but yes, I do. And then you look good. God damn, bud. I wish I looked good in a brown suit. That's always something I want to buy, and I'm sorry I did. You know, it's like it hangs in the closet, never to be worn again. Anyway, so I want to do showcases. But you guys, if you want to showcase, work your ass off. Bring some scenes in here that are worthy of it. And get more than one scene partner, because you know what happens. But we need some sustainability. We need some people that put up some work. And I'll be happy to have one. And you can invite people. And I guarantee you will have some people in the industry to come see it. They want to. They ask me all the time, when you have the next showcase? And I went, we'll see. Okay? All right, so that's that. Anybody have any wins to celebrate this week? Yeah.
I'm in a play this month that's playing 5 times at Havana Theater. It's part of the OR Festival.
Oh, good.
It's a dark comedy.
I love that event. We did Pizza Man out there. It's a nice little venue. Good for you.
So
Anybody?
18th to the 21st at 8 o'clock. If you guys are in commercial and want a show, come check it out.
All right. Anybody? Daniel?
It's a bit silly, but I rolled over payment for an ad I did 2 years ago, so I'm not broke. So.
Yay! Yes.
I had my very first TV film audition on Friday.
How'd it go?
Good. It
Yeah.
wasn't like 80% what I rehearsed, but it went better than I expected for my first one.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, when you're here for the next session, we have the 5th classes, the audition. You'll have to bring that audition in.
Okay.
See how you really
It's
feel.
only a 3-liner, but still.
Those are the work. Those are the hard
Yeah,
ones,
it was
man.
hard.
That's the career builders. You know, tastes like detergent. You know. Anyway, how many of you know who Ed Harris is? Okay, if you don't know who Ed Harris is, look him up. He's got quite a resume, and he's done quite a lot. And I saw him in a play. Some of you have heard the story that I talk about Ed Harris's line in the play Scar, where he talks about, I used to have a walk that could break concrete, and that was a visual that stayed with me. And when I talk to you about going to a coffee shop and watching people walk so you can create a character, because it starts with a walk and a talk. It's how you do what you do. That's how you create a character. And if you don't believe me, seriously, pair up, go to a coffee shop with a book and start watching people and take notes. And you'll start to notice how people walk and carry themselves, and you'll go, compare notes. Take notes and say, oh, that person's confident. That person just got laid. That person feels really good about it. That person's having a bad. See what you can feel. Because that's what you do as actors. You study that shit and then you put it in. So I want to read you something about Ed Harris. He points out that in taking on a character that's different from one's own persona, an actor can learn a lot about his or her own abilities, right? How many of you, by the way, have a pad and a pen today? Anybody doesn't have a pad and a pen? From now on, you bring a pad and a pen to class. You're paying for this class. You're not going to remember everything. It's going over the notes. Even if you only do it once, you get your money's worth. Anyway, he says that you can learn a lot about your own ability. From his early days, he said, sometimes it's a matter of research about the person. Sometimes it's a whole physical thing that the person's got some particular aspect to it. When he says research, what do you think that is? That's, give me something that gives me behavior. Okay? And here's an example. He said, I remember one of the first things I did in theater was I played Lot in a Tennessee Williams play called Kingdom of the Earth. He's a very effeminate character. It was a whole different way of being physically for me. I just allowed myself to work on that and to be that, change how I felt and not afraid to be, I don't have to be Mr. Macho. I was only 26 when I did it, but it taught me a lot. An effeminate character. There's many different types of effeminate characters, but what he's talking about is he had to put it in his body. It's a walk and a talk and how you speak and all of that. And he did it. And if you've ever seen Ed Harris, he's not effeminate. I mean, he's kind of a dude, bald head and the whole thing, and he plays these kind of macho guys. But that's what you're looking for. Acting is physical, voice, body, and emotional inner life. And whatever your path to that character is ultimately going to result in some kind of physical behavior that tells us a lot about that character. And back in the day when Tennessee Williams, who was very gay, was writing about homosexual themes, that was your ass. I mean, your life. You were beaten and defiled and made fun of. That would be a life sentence. I mean, it was a bad thing, especially in the Deep South, where it's still a problem today. So finding those things about that character is something physical. The good actors, they all study it that way. He allowed himself to work on it, which meant, coming up with a walk and a talk. On another tack, one piece of advice Harris has to share with aspiring actors is to know to separate the idea of being an actor from being a star. Because the craft and the business, while connected, are separate entities. He just says, I would say that if this is something you're pursuing as an actor, it's one thing to learn about acting and to become a better actor. It's another thing to want to be famous, to want to be a star or to get recognition. If you want to be an actor and learn about acting, it has nothing to do with Hollywood. That has nothing to do with the business. That has to do with you as a human being pursuing something you fucking care about. If you get good enough, all that other stuff will take care of itself. We're in a business that most of the things in the business of acting are out of our control. I say that on my website all the time. You can't control when you get an audition, bless you. You can't control if an agent's gonna take you on. You can't control if you get into that audition and they wanna hire you. You can't control so much, right? What can you control? This. Becoming the best fucking actor you can be so they can't ignore you. And I'm here to tell you, if you get as good as you possibly can get, you will have a career. You may not open films, you may not be marrying Brad Pitt, or whoever else the other feminine equivalent of that is, but you'll have a career, you will work. They're looking for you. The casting directors in this town and the good ones, and the casting directors anywhere are looking for the talent to fill these roles. There's a lot of product out there. You say, well, gee, how come I haven't had the auditions? I don't know. There's so many factors that contribute, but I do know if you worry about all those other ones, it'll drive you fucking crazy. But the one thing you can worry about, and the one thing you could really do something about, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, is do this. Be the best actor you can be. Are you with a voice coach? Are you working on your monologues? Do you have more than one contemporary? Do you have more than one classical? Do you need more than one? I don't know, but it helps. Are you on a reading program? Are you taking care of your body? Are you eating right? Do you meditate? What do you do when you're having a bad day? There's a lot of stuff you can take care of. And I guarantee you, most of the people in this room, there's something in there you could be working on. Because I know there is in me. And I'm working pretty hard. So we're all that way. That's not to be critical and that's not to beat on you. It's just to say, look, open your eyes. You want this. You're here. So you want it more than most because you're willing to do the work. Well, keep doing it and do more. What else? Ask yourself, what else can I do that is in my control to make myself better? Those of you that have an agent that you're having a problem with, go to the agent and ask them, what can I do? Tell me the truth. What can I do? Help me, help you. Give him a Jerry Maguire, okay? Look, the reason that I read you things about established stars who have wonderful careers, and especially the ones who aren't maybe the most recognizable, that don't show up at the awards and they aren't on Hollywood Reporter or whatever the shows are, but the hard-working ones that book and work all the fucking time, is because their path is your path. He started at the Pasadena Playhouse in acting class and worked his bloody ass off. And somebody saw him doing some student film or doing some equity waiver play. I got millions of these stories. They're starting where you start, okay? And working as hard as you possibly can work and wanting it as bad as you can want it. That's okay. They keep wanting, keep driving yourself, okay? Do the things that are necessary for you to succeed, and I'll help. Thanks for listening.